Hey y'all, thanks for watching this video. Remember to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button and the notification button so you get all the videos that I got coming out, because I'm working real hard for y'all and I hope you enjoy it and I hope you're entertained by it. And as always, I thank you humbly for your continued support. A new arc begins in Dragon Ball Super, and because it's a new arc, I thought it would be cool to do a new thumbnail style for the manga reviews, and I'm probably going to go back and change the old thumbnails over time to better fit this style, and a brand new template for the manga reviews as we talk about manga chapter 67, which simultaneously ends the Moro arc, or at least has the aftermath of the battle with Moro here for the first few pages, and then segues into the Granola arc, or as it's being called, Granola the Survivor arc. One thing I'm very pleased about right off the hop is the fact that the Granola the Survivor arc is literally a continuation of the Moro arc. Dragon Ball Super's arcs in the past very often did not feel as interconnected as I would have liked them to. For example, the Trunks arc kind of came out of nowhere and was pretty much a business decision that was made by Shueisha to help use Future Trunks to promote video games and merchandise. But with this new Granola the Survivor arc, it does feel like a continuation of the previous arc, and also features the surprising survival of the android 7-3, whom in the past was able to steal the abilities of other characters. And here with manga chapter 67, it is revealed that when Moro was destroyed, a small part of his head was still alive, and there were microprocessors that sort of refused with him, sort of like what they did in the Dragon Ball Z Movie 7 Super Android 13 film, how you saw the processors from 14 and 15 go into his temple to create Super 13. It was kind of like that here. Not exactly, but similar. And this allows 7-3 to remain alive and possibly become a major player going forward in this Granola arc. Now, before we get back to 7-3, I want to talk about the consequences of the previous arc, because Dragon Ball has not really had that many consequences for actions. I was reading a lot of y'all's comments for the past month or so, and I saw a lot of people talking about how you hope that the Grand Priest would somehow punish Beerus or punish Goku for what they had done, mostly Goku, during the Moro arc, not just having trouble finishing him off, but also the fact that they allowed, or at least they were involved in the disappearance of an angel. But that was, of course, MERUS' decision. But many folks want Goku to be depowered, to lose UI, or to lose his god forms, and that just did not happen here. Instead, it became sort of a gag where we find out that MERUS is indeed alive, and at the very least, there is one consequence of this action, which was that MERUS retains his life and gets to kind of be immortal in Universe 7, still working for the Galactic Patrol, but this time he does not have his angelic powers. So it was something I predicted, and I was actually happy they went with, to where it sort of doesn't entirely cheapen his sacrifice. It doesn't totally ruin the entire purpose behind it, and it keeps him alive to somewhat give that character like a bit of a happy ending. Now, was it too soon for this? I would say so. Was it something that could have been executed better? Yeah, I agree. But at the very least, we're not going to have another one of Goku's friends be an angel and getting involved in fights with angelic powers. From now on, if MERUS does help Goku, he'll be immortal just like Goku. However, the question remains, does MERUS still know and have the knowledge of things like Ultra Instinct? Did he retain those memories? And I would say yes. It seems, and I don't know for sure, but it seems likely that MERUS at least retained the knowledge he had as an angel, but he cannot tap into those crazy abilities that we've seen Whis and Vados do throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball Super. But I'll get back to the Beerus stuff in a minute. First, I want to say that another thing that Toyotaro did in this manga chapter was he closed out the Oob story, at least temporarily. The Daikaio Shin inside of the Fat Majin Buu referred to himself as a distant relative or whatever to Oob. Oob had no idea what was going on. Goku and Vegeta had a conversation about Oob briefly, but it's implied here that we're not going to go to the end of Z yet. That's for later. Goku will meet Oob later on, so Toyotaro and Toriyama, both of them, are putting that storyline on the shelf for now for the future. Also, I should mention that the Namekian Dragon Balls, not the Earth Balls, the Namekian Dragon Balls were used to bring back those who were killed during the MORO conflict, including some of the aliens that were also killed during this whole arc. And it's a typical post-arc, post-battle Dragon Ball ritual for them to summon the dragon to resurrect everybody who died, and this is no exception. We have our usual party, and things seem pretty bright for now. The scene where Beerus gets beaten up by Zeno, he has to basically play horse for the Omni Kings, was pretty funny, and it seems like the Angels were perfectly fine with what Goku did, although Beerus seems to be the lapdog or whatever, the scapegoat for this mistake that was made with MERUS vanishing and whatnot. We of course find out that it was the Supreme Kai that offered his own life to bring back MERUS. MERUS of course was brought back as a mortal, but it's interesting because you have to remember that if the Supreme Kai, the Kaioshin, vanishes, that means that Beerus also vanishes. So he's not too happy about any of this. And the Angels seem to be happy with Goku despite him making some mistakes that almost cost everyone quite a bit. People complain a lot about Dragon Ball not having stakes and not having consequences and how death does not matter anymore. But I've got news for you. What else is new? What I mean by that is it's been going down this way for a very long time, even since the later Dragon Ball Z arcs. And now with Beerus and Whis being friends with Goku, for lack of a better term, now with the Zeno button and also the fact that we find out that Whis can give birth to people and bring people back to life, you don't even need the Dragon Balls anymore. And on top of that, besides the Dragon Balls, we have now been introduced to the Super Dragon Ball, so if they really have a major problem, they can always gather those up and make a wish with that. So, yes, there's no question that stakes in Dragon Ball have been very much, I guess, diminished. And I feel like the only way to really fix this problem is to have an actual major threat appear, a threat to the Heavenly Kingdom, a threat to Zeno, the Grand Priest, and the Angels, to where maybe some of them actually get killed. You know, it would have to be something that extreme, and I don't know if Dragon Ball Super is going to be going in that direction anytime soon. I really do hope that they get there in the future, maybe in a later arc, but right now, that's not really what we're doing with Dragon Ball Super. It seems to be more so a story focused on the development of Goku and Vegeta as fighters and as people, and I feel like in the future we may see more Broly and Frieza and Universe 6 and characters like that, but as far as an actual major threat like that, to where we actually are questioning the future of these characters, they would have to go past the end of Z and introduce somebody fierce. Will it happen someday? I don't have a crystal ball, but I certainly hope so. But until then, all we can really do is try to enjoy the series just for fun. I mean, really, Dragon Ball is supposed to be fun, and that's why I keep reading it, because I have a fun time reading it. But I know in the back of my head that they're going to be okay. Everyone's going to be all right. We're going to have to wait for that serious threat to come in the future. When I look at this manga chapter as a whole, I think to myself, what were they trying to accomplish? What were the goals of this chapter? And the goals of chapter 67, to me, were to not only show that MERUS is still alive and that he might be involved as a non-angel and kind of close off the story with MERUS, if they're ever going to close that off. He may still be involved in this arc. We don't know how much he would be, but he might be. And to also introduce the new character of Granola. And we really do not know too much about Granola as of right now, but it is the first chapter. So all we can really judge him on is the very little that we do know about him and his design. And I have to say that the one thing that struck me about Granola's design is that it really did come off like it was one that was designed by Toriyama and not Toyotaro. It feels like a modern Dragon Ball or Dragon Quest character design. In fact, the thing about Granola that kind of blows my mind is that he looks like the most normal antagonist we've had in a very, very long time. He looks like a regular human mortal dude, like nothing really special about him. You know, even Broly, who was just a humanoid guy, was a giant jacked up monster, but this guy seems like just a normal, like run-of-the-mill human. He isn't an alien or a bubblegum thing or a cyborg or, like any of that stuff. He's not like a weird looking character. he's just like a regular guy, and it's kind of refreshing. If I'm being honest with you, it's a bit refreshing because, as we know by studying Dragon Ball history, Toriyama really enjoys to subvert your expectations. And so us going from this giant goat man to this potentially just regular guy who probably has crazy abilities, and we'll find out as the series goes on, he's got to have something to him, right? But seeing that simple design does seem different, and I'm okay with it. And we recently discovered that it is indeed Toriyama who wrote the draft for this arc, not Toyotaro. In the Moro arc, it was mostly Toyotaro's story, with Toriyama being an overseer. I broke that right here on this channel. That was an exclusive. And now with this arc, it appears like Toriyama is once again at the head of the table while Toyotaro draws his vision out. Now, obviously, he'll have some input, but it all makes sense now based on an interview from Toyotaro himself about the Granola arc that he is going to be working with Toriyama on this, but it is Toriyama's story. So it will be interesting to see in the upcoming months how it differs from the way that Toyotaro told the story. So that'll be an interesting observation for us as fans to see what Toriyama's going to write for this thing. Now, one other thing that this this chapter did accomplish was a tremendous amount of world building as well. They did expand the Dragon Ball universe wider, at least Universe 7, because we got to see some alien civilizations, some new characters, some hijinks going on in space that we really didn't know about until now. We find out a bit more about 7-3, and it turns out that he was not a creation by Moro's, prisoners, and he wasn't a character that's even related to those guys whatsoever. He was stolen. And we find this out after a short time skip when Jocko is in the prison taunting prisoners that were out during the Moro arc. And they cut back and forth between the conversation in the prison and Moro's microprocessors going into, not Moro, 7-3's microprocessors going into his brain, which are like little globs of goo. It's kind of disgusting in a way, but this is what sort of helps him regenerate and brings him back. And we find out that they apparently put in their own data into his head and were able to strengthen 7-3 from scratch and strengthened him. So the prisoners are insinuating that Jocko and the rest of the Dragon Team, the Z Fighters, whatever you want to call them, should have checked to make sure that 7-3 was totally destroyed. And Jocko realizes they may have made a mistake and rushes to Earth to try to see if they can find the head or something. And in the crater, there is no sign of 7-3, which means that he was indeed taken. And we find out that these two mysterious aliens took 7-3's head. But these two aliens have sinister motives. We have a bit of a time skip happen here, and a few months have passed. It doesn't say how many months specifically. It just says a few months. And in a farther part from the universe, we now see that those two aliens have 7-3 on their ship. They are the original owners of 7-3. We find out that Saganbo's the one who stole 7-3 from them to begin with, and that now he is slowly regenerating, and that his data has been copied to some other models. So there are now multiple clones, or at least clone-esque, maybe reverse engineered androids like 7-3. And now they actually state that he's been powered up far beyond what he was before. And now they want to rule the universe. So yeah, they're not good dudes. But in space, we have another mysterious ship appear. And this mysterious ship has our new primary, centerpiece characters or character of this arc. And that is, of course, Granola and Oatmeal. And notice how everybody on the other ship begins to panic. Now, understand this is Toyotaro basically giving you context that Granola has a reputation. People either know who Granola is, or they know that that ship has a history of doing things like hijacking other ships, and they start to freak out for a reason. This becomes like a total science fiction Star Wars type of situation here, where they aboard the ship and it's Granola fighting against these androids, the 7-2 models or whatever they're called, and he's over here firing at their crystals, knowing their weak spot to stop them. So we know that these clones or these, reverse engineered androids come from 7-3. Granola has to have some kind of knowledge here about this situation, going into it, that is. But even before then, these shootouts with these dudes with the funny hats just reminds me of like when they broke into the Death Star in the first Star Wars film. Like, it just kind of brings that back, that sort of memory. There's a lot of Star Wars type of stuff. Goku getting the medals earlier in the chapter is like the end of the first Star Wars film. So there's a lot of Star Wars references in this chapter that I personally thought were pretty cool. And it's implied here that their target is OG-73. At least that's the implication. But they have to get through these other androids or whatever first. But even before that, they have this cool scene of like the guys with the funny hats, shooting. And yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. So Toyotaro's trying to get this guy Granola over as just this total badass with this gun, in this laboratory or whatever you want to call it, fighting through these androids, trying to get to 7-3. And at the end of the manga chapter, the cliffhanger is that he has found his target, and his target is OG-73. Now, of course, 7-3 still regenerating, but we don't know what his intentions are. When the spoilers have first come out a few days ago, it looked like Granola was some kind of a scientist who was actually the one that was cloning the 7-3s, the androids or whatever. But that is not the case at all. That's what happens when you have spoilers without context, is that you really don't know what's going on, which is why I always tell y'all in my spoiler videos, let's wait for the real chapter to come out, because we don't have full context. It's just what I think is going on based on the imagery. But obviously there was more going on here. And it seems like the 7-3s or whatever, the androids, are not part of Granola's ultimate scheme, but it does seem like his goal is 7-3, to do something with him, whether it be to steal him and reprogram him, whether it be to take his powers. There's been one theory that went around that Granola's actually a fallen angel and that he wants to take 7-3's powers because the android 7-3 might still have the angel powers from MERUS, right? That was copied over when MORO was fused with 7-3. That's a great theory, and one that would be kind of cool, of like an angel who used to be, or a guy who's a mortal who used to be an angel, like what MERUS is now, trying to reattain his angelic power. That would be a great storyline if that's what they're going to do. But we don't know yet. It's a big mystery and a cliffhanger going into the next manga chapter. I'm sure I'll do videos on this in the coming weeks about what we think about Granola, but right now he is still being kept a mystery, and we don't have any clue what his intentions are going to be, but I'm sure we'll find out very soon. We do know that this is a Toriyama written story. Unlike the MORO arc, he's the one who delivered the primary draft behind the story, and that means that it could be different, and we're going to find out very soon how different. With that being said, I'll bring this video to a close. I will be doing a live stream very soon, and some more videos coming up all week, non-stop content here on Geekdom 101. Make sure you are subscribed and notifications are being turned on, because there's a bunch of problems with that going on with YouTube and people not being notified. It's an ongoing issue with many channels on this platform, not just mine. So remember to check back on the channel every day at your leisure, of course, at your time. And if you enjoyed this video, check these out as well.